judges. They had rules of evidence. They understood the philosophy of damages. Long before Moses was born, they had asylums for the insane and hospitals for the sick. Long before God appeared on Sinai, there were schools in Egypt, and the highest office next to the throne was opened to the successful scholar. The Egyptian married but one wife. His wife was called the lady of the house. Women were not secluded, and above all and over all, the people of Egypt were not divided into castes, and were infinitely better governed than God ever thought of. I am speaking of the God of this Bible. If Moses had remembered more of what he saw in Egypt, his government would have been far better than it was. Long before these commandments were given, Zoroaster taught the Hindus that there was one infinite and supreme God. They had a code of laws, and their laws were administered by judges in their courts. By those laws, at the death of a father, the unmarried daughter received twice as much of his property as his son. Compare those laws with the laws of Moses. So, too, the Romans had their code of laws. The Romans were the greatest lawyers the world produced. The Romans had a code of civil laws, and that code today is the foundation of all law in the civilized world. The Romans built temples to truth, to faith, to valor, to concord, to modesty, to charity, and to chastity. And so with the Grecians. And yet you will find Christian ministers today contending that all ideas of law, of justice, and of right came from Sinai, from the Ten Commandments, from the Mosaic laws. No lawyer who understands his profession will claim that is so. No lawyer who has studied the history of law will claim it. No man who knows history itself will claim it. No man will claim it but an ignorant zealot. Let us go another step. Let us compare the ideas of this God with the ideas of uninspired men. I am making this long preface because I want to get it out of your minds that the Bible is inspired. Now let us go along a little and see what is God's opinion of liberty. Nothing is of more value in this world today than liberty. Liberty of body and liberty of mind. Without liberty, the universe would be as a dungeon into which human beings are flung like poor and miserable convicts. Intellectual liberty is the air of the soul, the sunshine of the mind. Without it, we should be in darkness. Now Jehovah commanded the Jewish people to take captive the strangers and sojourners amongst them, and ordered that they and their children should be bondsmen and bondswomen forever. Now let us compare Jehovah to Epictetus, a man to whom no revelation was ever made, a man to whom this God did not appear. Let us listen to him. Remember, your servants are to be treated as your own brothers, children of the same God. On the subject of liberty, is not Epictetus a better authority than Jehovah, who told the Jews to make bondsmen and bondswomen of the heathen round about? And he said they were to make them their bondsmen and bondswomen forever. Why? Because they were heathen. Why? Because they were not children of the Jews. He was the God of the Jews and not the rest of mankind. So he said to his chosen people, pillage upon the enemy and destroy the people of other gods. Bury the heathen round about. Yet Cicero, a poor pagan lawyer, said this, and he had not even read the Old Testament, had not even had the advantage of being enlightened by the prophets. They who say that we should love our fellow citizens and not foreigners, destroy the universal brotherhood of mankind, and with it benevolence and justice would perish forever. Is not Cicero greater than Jehovah? The Bible, inspired by Jehovah, says, if a man smite his servant with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall be punished. If he continue a day or two and then die, he shall not be punished. Zeno, the founder of the Stoics, who had never heard of Jehovah and never read a word of Moses, said this: "No man can be the owner of another, and the title is bad. Whether the slave became a slave by conquest or by purchase, the title is bad. Let us come and see whether Jehovah has any humanity in him." Jehovah ordered the Jewish general to make war, and this was the order: "And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them." And yet Epictetus, whom I have already quoted, said: "Treat those in thy power as thou wouldst have thy superiors treat thee." I am on the side of the pagan. Is it possible that a being of infinite goodness said: "I will heap mischief upon them, I will send my arrows upon them, they shall be burned with hunger, they shall be devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of locusts upon them, with the poisonous serpent of the desert. The sound without and the terror within shall destroy both the young men and the virgins, the sucklings also, and the men with gray hairs"; while Seneca, a poor uninspired Roman, said: "A wise man will not pardon any crime that ought to be punished, but will accomplish in other way all that is sought. He will spare some, he will pardon and watch over some because of their youth. He will pardon these on account of their ignorance. His clemency will not fail what is sought by justice, but his clemency will fulfill justice." That was said by Seneca. Can we believe that this Jehovah said: "Let his children be fatherless, and his wife a widow; let his children be continually vagabonds and beg; let them seek their bread out of desolate places; let the extortioner catch all that he hath, and let the stranger spoil his labor; let no one extend mercy unto them, neither let any favor his fatherless children"? Did Jehovah say this? Surely he had never heard this line, this plaintive music from the Hindoo. Sweet is the lute to those who have not heard the voices of their own children. Let us see the generosity of Jehovah out of the cloud of darkness on Mount Sinai. He said to the Jews: "Thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not bow down to any other gods. For the Lord thy God is a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me." Just think of God saying to people: "If you do not love me, I will damn you." Contrast this with the words put by the Hindoo poet into the mouth of Brahma: "I am the same to all mankind. They who honestly worship other gods involuntarily worship me. I am he that partaketh of all worship. I am the reward of worship." How perfectly sublime! Let me read it to you again: "I am the same to all mankind. They who honestly worship other gods involuntarily worship me. I am he that partaketh of all worship. I am the reward of worship." Compare these passages. The first is a dungeon which crude hands have digged with jealous slime. The other is like the dome of the firmament inlaid with constellations. Is it possible God ever said: "If a prophet deceive when he hath spoken a thing, I, the Lord, hath deceived that prophet"? Compare that passage with the poet, a pagan. Better remain silent the remainder of life than speak falsely. Can we believe a being of infinite mercy gave this command: "Put every man his sword by his side; go from the gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. consecrate it yourselves this day. Let every man lay his sword even upon his son, upon his brother, that he bestow